Hello. I just woke up and felt like talking. I plan to be doing this more often, but getting in the groove of it, forming the routine, is its own struggle. I wonder if I should rehash some of the things I've written about or expand upon them for auditory enjoyers. The dual streaming of Empyrean and my personal speaking will post on YouTube. So that has the double playlist, but there seems to be no way to do that on Substack itself. So, well, you know where both of those are in case you wish to see them. Um, should probably start with something like intellectual bloat, the proliferance of intellectuals, inflation of it, um, the decay, the decrease in quality. Not to say that um, there was some idealistic state where intellectuals were really intellectually, but there is an overwhelming amount of people, writers, commentators who provide nothing new to the scene and don't seem to be that skilled in reason or have any real intuitions about the subjects they talk about. It's much more a armchair regurgitation game and status display, which is horribly boring. I mean, it can have its use for people who don't know anything about philosophy or the topics that are being discussed, whatever they are. But if you're actually in it, it's kind of sad. Um, I noticed this, which I've wrote on before, uh, primarily in philosophy, psychology, theology. Um, is that it? And all relevant fields of within that. So, like religious people tend not to be terribly aware of what their beliefs actually mean or why they're following it. Basically, there's no epistemology, epistemological. There's no logical, actually. There's no logos embedded into the psyches of most people. They're incapable of discerning whether their foundations are in sand or not. This is an issue, especially for those like Christianity, which claim to, well, I mean, uh, Christ, the character of Christ goes about saying how I am the founding stone the builders forgot. You are building your foundations on sand. All these moral, or moral of the story type teachings. Um, but they're almost completely overlooked by must be 80/20, 80% of uh, practicing faithed persons are illogical, uh, which is just a human condition, really. It's the difference between ideologies and religions is not that important because the person beneath it is generally unchanged. They may have slightly different coats of paint, but they're really not that special, unique. Um, the belief systems they have only slightly modify the generalized herd organism that people tend to be. And I think this was somewhat intentionally done because if you're a global elite, the easier it is to allow the appearance of diversity while actually having them all sort of constrained to a pattern that you can easily maneuver, the better it is for you. And this seems to be what has been going on. It's not a new thing. Tyrannical empires have been, a mainstay of human existence. Um, People refusing to develop their sort of sovereign ego um, are led astray. And since I'm in a lot of um, like spiritual quote unquote circles, ego can be sort of a bad word, but I've come to enjoy the uh, sort of Rudolf Steinerian anthroposophic definition of the ego as a sort of mission for being. I've been coming to enjoy while also hoping to update the anthroposophic framework. Um, I started enjoying Sophia, but then, well, in relation to philosophia, wisdom. Uh, but that was sort of unrelated to anthroposophy, but um, through further devotion to wisdom, I've found that anthroposophy seems to have been that most coherent focus on, should I say, the most refined chapter of Western thought lately. Um, because it's not materialist, it's not dogmatic religion. Uh, it has competence to it, which we may leverage to think better, think more clearly, to actually develop the sense organs of cognition, to attain greater insights. Because most of philosophy is repetition, uh, orbiting a dead truth that never grows. They never grow, and the truth they believe in never grows. So it's a very stagnant monotheistic religion type kind of sort of thing. I mean, not to not to label philosophy as a monolith, the practice and art, whatever, but the way most people approach it is monolithic. It is like if you see philosophic content, it's very rare to find someone who thinks outside the box, who can actually generate thoughts. Um, I've made this complaint quite a lot that people aren't doing philosophy. They watch other people do it and then they just sort of copy them. This is the main issue with humans today. It's this refusal to do anything on your own. Not that you need to do it alone. On your own, meaning your presence, your action, maybe I'll just maybe I'll just commit to the whole anthroposophy thing and say you're feeling, willing, and thinking. Uh, People do not feel very deeply, they do not will very intensely, and they do not think much at all. They provide the illusion of thinking. Um, they are even deceived by it because they themselves have not developed the faculty which shit checks their own cognitions. They're sort of at the whim of various spirits that they cannot see, yet direct their lives. Um, Many powerful players are aware of these sort of phenomena. Many aren't, too, and it can be hard to differentiate because you can appear as if you know something, but simply attain the results through some luck, some guidance, some autonomy. Um, so that's always possible. Uh, I never. There's no need to always attribute your merits to something you've done because you don't really know how much outside support you've got. I think that's sort of what the elimination of pride is all about. Uh, Pride is sort of something that becomes superfluous if you're aware, um, but is a crutch for many who feel sort of shame. Uh, they feel shame, so they sort of invert that with pride, and they're stuck in a sort of bipolarity. I've talked about that before too. Recognizing all the polarities and attempting and seeking the eros between them, not to dull them into some androgyny, but to recognize extremes and be able to maneuver between them to most effectively uh, cognize, because extremes are like left and right hands or feet. Um, Imagine if you only committed to one and then you just sort of one leg hobbled everywhere. That's what most people are doing with their ideas. Um, you're never going to get any sort of meaningful change in any society so long as the baseline condition of humans is so poor, which it is. Uh, we are horribly misguided, somewhat retarded creatures. Uh, our education systems are designed to stunt us. Our cultural bodies are cancerous, and any attempt to really resolve any of these things is shut down, um, which is sad. I make little um, moves to resolve some of these things, um, but I don't. I mean, it's not really something I can do. Or any one person can do. It is a baseline collectivist phenomena because we are in a democracy, even if it is a even if it is somewhat of a mockery of that. Um, there is no way to enact real meaningful change unless people sort of band together and overpower their representatives. Yeah, democracy is a mob. That is what it is. Knowing this, uh, go about forming mobs. That's what it's for. Like, not violent. They need not be violent, but democracy implies sort of militia and threat of violence. and coherence. You need coherent. You need more coherence in a democracy than any other system, which is problematic because ideally you want a system that allows for the most meaningful, productive effects, requiring the least input and necessary cohesion between parties, which is why I vie for something like aristocracy as more like a cultural phenomena uh, that creates a foundation from which a monarch sort of leads, orients. Not entirely sure how that would work. There would need to be lots of dialogue between competent individuals. Well, competent sovereigns. I should stop saying individual because it doesn't really mean anything. I already know um, we are interlaced psychic organisms. We're never truly individual. We're never truly disconnected. That's not how this works. You may not be aware that you're in a play with all your fellow men. That this is a mutual dreamscape, and that's fine, I guess. I mean, it's low tier consciousness. Um, and even I reside in such low states of consciousness time to time. But I maintain the awareness, the remembrance of where I actually am, which is important. Not knowing where you are, not knowing your foundations. Yeah, you attempt to create axioms from nowhere. Um, how can you think from first principles if your one is not at one and your scales have been weighted and you don't really know where you are? This is the issue. This is the issue. Great mirages of media are deceiving you, and you make plans with these false awarenesses, believing they're real. This is a great evil, a great disservice. It's adharmic. It is not. It is not. It is not the way. So a lot of other people focus on the more peripheral um, interests, the particulars, specialization. But I, as a preferred generalist, uh, sort of maneuver around all these because I want the basics. I want the basics to work well, which they're not. Um, so this is my highest priority. I'm not going to uh, jump too far into particulars when the basis by which cognition arises is itself warped to such an extent as it is. Um, what is the point of doing your complex science and mathematics if you as a mind are not capable of sorting that information, of using it? The tools, the technology we create are often corrosive. We have no standard of measure to really even know uh, what is right or wrong. People are morally incompetent. They cannot. They don't know if what they've created was good or bad. That's problematic. Um, you don't know if you're holding a blade by the handle or the blade. We're all just turned around and inside out. And this, at the personal individual level, has to be fixed by you. Like it's personal. But this refusal to undergo the process of initiation and ascension, basically just the growing up process. You don't need to, I mean, you can, and it does take on a mythological structure. It's like at some level, this is a magical world we live in. Um, but it's very like normal, mundane. Uh, the process of becoming divinized of theosis is natural. Uh, we sort of resist nature for no reason a lot of the time. We could improve it. We could improve upon it. We could, make technological advancements which actually do something for the human condition, well-being. But we don't do that so much. We're in a lull. We're in a dead period where it is no longer efficient or incentivized to do things which are actually useful. Uh, and that's a problem. And yeah,